Working on the first project. Heard some tapping and screeching going on in the valve train. Screeching not good, tapping. I can kind of fix that. I checked the lash. The lash was at 13, which is where it needs to be. But this is where the tapping was coming from. These valves got little pucks. They're rotator pucks that sit on the top of it. I don't know if you can see or not, but this puck has worn the top of the valve, so it's sliding back and forth. There's the tapping. The screeching's a different story. Got into the rocker shaft. Oil comes up through a hollow shaft. Holes feed each one of the rockers. There's a little groove cut in there that helps distribute the oil to the sides of the rockers. You can see on this one, that groove buggered up and the rocker started to dig into the pedestal. So I'm going to clean that out. And then looking at the rockers, I don't know if you can see, but it's like a brass bronze insert, lead coated, and it's got a stamping in here for the oil to come up to here, but that's not hollow, and the push rods are not hollow. And I'm like, what are they doing for oil distribution? And then it occurred to me, this is a stamped piece rolled over on itself. I pressurized this in the parts bin over there, and them ingenious bastards, they like furnace brazed it down here but not up here, and it leaks through the crack right there, and it sprays oil all over the valve train. We put oil squirters in our engines now. This is just beyond simple what they're doing. But anyways, let me clean this up, get it back together, see if I can get this this tapping, screeching noise to go away. Okay, got her purring. You can't really tell, the Fiat belt's making a bunch of noise. Here, let me quiet it down. No ticky ticky. I can button this back up, put the fuel tank back on, and she's ready to go for another 3 years. Getting oil where it needs to be. Push rods are turning the way they're supposed to be. Calling it good. Today's project. The headlight came out of the benzol here. These things used to have little clips that clipped in here. And being 70 years old, they're long gone, so I just a RTV this in place. It's not a big deal if I need to replace the bulb. It comes right out with a razor blade. And then the brush hog. This thing was vibrating pretty bad the last time I used it. The shear pin broke, and this has got a slip clutch, so the shear pin shouldn't have broke. So I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I crawled underneath it, and I don't know if you know how these works, but they're like 20-pound blades attached to a 40-pound flywheel, and I don't know if you can see that or not. The flywheel's vibrating pretty bad. Tried to tighten up the nut, and it's still doing it, so that tells me that the lock washer underneath this is busted. So I'm going to pull all this out, and I'm thinking about sharpening the blades too. You do that with a torch on these things. You don't even mess around with a grinder. Okay, on to the next project. Like everything I do, it always takes longer. The only washer I had that fit the shaft was this size, and it wasn't wide enough. So I had these, they're hardened. My drill bit wouldn't go through it, and the carbide cutter wouldn't go through it, so I had to torch the hole bigger. While that was cool, and I got back to the light, and one light wasn't working, and it's on its own switch. And like everything in the 50s, you can't get them now, or you can take them apart and fix them. It was such a simple design. The brass was just a little corroded, so I took them apart, cleaned them up with a file, put some dielectric grease on it, put it back together, and then bend these tabs back around and switch. Gotta love it, man. You can rebuild this stuff. Nowadays, it's just throw it away. It came from China, electronic shit.